South Park: The Fractured Butthole, due for release across PlayStation 4, Xbox One and Windows on October 17th, developed by Ubisoft San Francisco and of course, as you'd hope, written by the two men behind South Park itself, Trey Parker and Matt Stone. And guess what? It's not getting censored in Australia! At all! The shitfight over video game ratings, which to a large extent the prior game, Stick of Truth, helped kick off, has finally settled into a place where games like this can, somewhat ironically, go unmolested. Hello again, I am Blunty, and this week I've gone hands-on for a few hours worth of gameplay from this title, and I can tell you right now, if you enjoyed the first game, you're probably going to love this one even more. Oh, and I apologise right now for the lack of game sound here. Something got balked during my capture session, and I didn't have time to re-record, unfortunately, so hey, at least this way you won't have any of the zippy dialogue or jokes spoiled for you, I guess. If you never played the first game, don't worry, you don't need to, because while it is a direct sequel picking up almost immediately where the last game left off, there's enough in the prologue and tutorial stages to get you caught up with the only things you actually need to know to enjoy the game. And while the first game was dressed in a fantasy role-playing style, this time around it's both a cutting mockery and loving tribute to the superhero genre. And you don't really even have to have seen the episodes of the show that feature the South Park kids playing superhero, though there are of course more than a few references to those prior adventures. So whether you're a newbie or an old hand, you are equally welcomed into this game. It's a turn-based role-playing adventure, the gimmick being that the kids are literally role-playing in the game itself, imagining themselves as teams of superheroes and villains. You, as in the first game, play the new kid in town, never actually referred to by name and only ever called various derogatory nicknames, like Buttlord. The plot revolves primarily around two superhero groups. Cartman leads Coon and Friends, and their rivals are the Freedom Pals, each vying for their own successful superhero movie franchise. And if you're familiar with the combat system of the first game, you'll be extremely pleased to find a much more elegant and refined version of it here, including the additional mechanic of movement within the battlefield, and attacks that have various areas of effect, and abilities to push and pull friend or foe across the stage. It's a much more sophisticated set of mechanics all around than the first game, but it is also much more polished, so the extra complexity actually winds up being more elegant, and even more interesting to play. As in the first game, you start by selecting one of three classes, which a little further into the game you can further supplement with a subclass, all of which of course conform to common superhero power set tropes. And as with many turn-based RPG systems, there's many mechanics to battle. Offensive and defensive moves, of course, the ability to shield yourself or allies, you can buff, debuff, heal, inflict multi-turn status effects, it's all here. And again, the interface and the tutorials really do a great job at making it all seem as simple to get to grips with as possible. Alongside your natural class abilities, you can also equip various items you can find or win throughout the game, which will also grant you various buffs and protections. A bit like the weapon enhancement system in the first game. In short, what rapidly I found here was everything I was hoping for as a big fan of the first game. Everything has been tweaked. Nothing important or great has been lost or surrendered, but everything that was a bit rough or just plain janky about the first game has been polished up nicely or replaced with something far better. There's nice little touches like a quick map you can bring up without diving into the menu system, the UI for missions and crafting and all the other equipment and such has been tightened up too. It's actually a really highly refined RPG system at play here. It's just disguised by being wrapped up in the irreverence and sarcasm and unapologetic vulgarity and low-res presentation of South Park, which, stunningly, even after all these years, still makes me laugh. I was actually scheduled for 2 hours in the Ubisoft offices here in Sydney to play it, but I can tell you right now, they just flew by. And I could have very happily sat there in their demo room for the rest of the day playing away. I was supposed to just focus on playing through the first 3 main character setup missions, which function as a kind of transparent tutorial, but I was more than happy to allow myself to be sidetracked by several side quests and the collectathon stuff. Even though in the back of my mind I was very aware that this was not my save file, any progress I made was pointless and irrelevant, but I still wanted to do it. And that should tell you everything you need to know about how compelling the game is to play. But let's just say I went overtime a bit. Sorry about that, Ubi peeps. I'm sure you'll forgive me. There's a lot of appealing stuff about this game, both from its style, its raw gameplay mechanics, its humour, the self-aware conceit that everything going on is just the kids imagining themselves being super powerful heroes and villains. If you ever liked South Park, you're going to enjoy this game. If you ever loved turn-based RPGs, you'll probably love this game too, because it is a good example of those. If you've never really gotten into South Park or turn-based RPG games, it's still worth investigating this game, because for all its deliberately lo-fi looking surface presentation, the humour, social commentary, and just plain compelling gameplay are all finely honed, resulting in what I expect for many first-timers will be an unexpectedly enthralling experience. Don't let the lowbrow nature of South Park fool you. It's actually quite sophisticated. To those of us who giggled our way through the first game, well, you already pre-ordered this, didn't you? And if you hadn't before my ringing endorsement, you probably will go out and do it right now, won't you? Expect me to have a copy of this game day one. No question. I must. I need. I desire. And yes, I expect I'll be streaming it over on Twitch too. I feel like it's an experience well worth sharing. In my humble opinion, it is gaming as it should be. Joyful, smarmy, clever, and self-aware. I just hope there's another 8-bit adventure in Canada. That's one of my very, very favourite parts of the first game. So pitch perfect, don't you agree? And yes, I'm aware, all I've done through this video is gush about this game, but I swear to you, this isn't some kind of stealth-sponsored video. These are 100% my own opinions, and the game did just genuinely impress me that much. It is almost instantly compelling to play, and as I said, I didn't want to stop, even though it wasn't my save file and it was pointless to keep going. So that's always a good sign. Thanks for watching, I am Blunty, and I will catch you next time.